Hi, my name is Kalina Bird. I am currently a student at Walden University, completing my last course for the Masters of Higher Education program. And basically, I picked this topic for a couple of reasons. I have both professional as well as personal experience with students that may have developmental disabilities or special needs when it comes to just everyday living, but also academically. And being an alumni of Carthage, it was just something that interested me, and I wanted to just dig a little deeper into, how Carthage's current setup was, if they, happen to provide any accommodations for these students, and then if so, what were they, and just see if, there were some ways that we might be able to enhance that type of support that they're currently offering. I just personally feel like with the changing times, it's becoming more and more prevalent that students are in need of additional, um, support when it comes to trying to achieve a higher level of education. And again, being that I, originally attended Carthage, it just piqued my interest a little bit more at, what my alma mater may have or may not have. So, essentially, this presentation is just going to be about, what the title states. I want to enhance the evidence of the current support services for students with developmental disabilities at Carthage, as well as hopefully, give some suggestions or recommendations as to what they may be able to incorporate, and then hopefully that will, better benefit the students that are either there currently or will potentially be attending. So here we go. My project will basically focus on the lack of evidence of student learning for developmentally disabled or DD students and students with special needs at Carthage. Currently, I just feel as though just looking either at the website or in speaking with a few of the individuals that I've spoken with at the school, there isn't necessarily a lot of information to kind of give you an idea of what Carthage has to offer when it comes to this student population. Not necessarily stating that they have to, have all of this information just front row and center. However, we do want to be able to, promote what there is, what we're able to offer to these students, and in the long run, give them an idea of what they'd be expecting if they were to attend Carthage. So right now, I believe that the problem is that, if a student, let's say, who had these special needs was interested in Carthage for whatever reason, be it just close proximity or just, knowing about the reputation of the school, would they have enough information to, make an informed decision as to whether they should attend based off of what is, currently evident of the support services? Or, should we be doing more? So that's basically where the problem statement derived from. Carthage currently identifies a need for the existing and potential students. And speaking with Diane Showalter, she was stating that, Carthage recognizes that there are going to be some accommodations that they would have to make, for these students, and that's not necessarily a problem. But there isn't any actual like programming that's established. It's more so dealt with on a case by case basis. So students would, provide the appropriate documentation and whatever other, tools that they felt that they would need in order to succeed at Carthage. And then Carthage at that point would, formulate some type of plan with the student where they would, get some classroom accommodations, be it, extended deadlines or modifications for, essays or what have you, just to give them a little bit more assistance. But there isn't an actual like program that they would be enrolled in or that they would be able to, participate in basically based off of the fact that they may have a disability or a special need. Um, what we want to aim for and what essentially I, want to be my overall goal for Carthage would be that there is a quality and comparable educational environment. We want to make sure that we're providing the exact same amount of services in whatever capacity to the students that may have these disabilities, that we would provide to a student that wouldn't. We want to make sure that the environment that they're in and the type of atmosphere that they're going to have to adjust to isn't going to be something that sets them apart from the other students on the campus. We want it to be more inclusive. We want it to be more indicative of, I can get the same type of education as the next person, and there doesn't necessarily have to be this great divide between the two. They're obviously going to have a need for academic and social supports. They're going to need, whatever the necessary tools are academically. Like right now they have like some test taking support, writing center, things like that. Those are going to be the things that these students are going to, utilize. However, we also don't want to forget about the social aspects. There may be times where, these students may not feel comfortable being in a regular just educational setting, or they may feel as though they can't necessarily socialize as easy as they would in any other environment. So we want to make sure that they have those opportunities on both ends of the spectrum, just to, again, give them a more well-rounded experience while they're at the institution. The evidence can assist in hopefully increasing some enrollment numbers as well as retention rates. My goal again would be to, provide more information to these students, do more of like an outreach, and have the faculty really put the pieces together with the students that are there now. That can only help to create whatever type of programming that Carthage may like to set up, and then promoting that for any potential students that may be interested in the school. So then that way, again, they have the information, they're able to make a more informed decision. And then when they come to Carthage, they know exactly what to expect. So Carthage's current setup, they have ADAPT, which is a student organization on campus, obviously, that deals with the students that have disabilities as well as other special needs. I think that that is a great tool to have on campus. Definitely a great resource for them, again, from a social standpoint. But it can also be good from an academic standpoint as well, because then they'll have that kind of peer group that they may be able to bounce some ideas off of, get some assistance with, if needed, with schoolwork or test taking skills, or just time management, anything. But again, they also will have that social aspect where, they'll get to know some people that they may not have known or gotten to know on just a day-to-day basis. As far as the services, though, that are currently being offered to students, include but are not limited to test taking accommodations. So if they need, a little extra time, if they need different space, if they need to be more isolated in order to focus, things like that. Note taking support, audio and electronic text materials, which I think is awesome, voice dictation software, classroom accommodations and modifications. Again, does it need to be a smaller classroom setting? Does there need to be, office hours outside of the classroom? Things like that in order to help them get through their courses. And then diagnostic testing. When they initially come into the school, I would, want for them to feel comfortable to come to their advisor or their mentor or peer or whomever and state, I think that I have maybe some deficiencies in these areas, and see if there's further testing that they may need in order to, kind of diagnose whatever the situation may be, and then be able to combat that with some support services at the school. So I definitely think that that's a great tool to have on campus. Also, so some additional resources that they have, peer tutoring, the writing center, learning strategy instruction, advocacy, and supplemental instruction, which I think are all great resources to currently have. And then some services for the faculty and staff are how to identify and verify special accommodations, giving faculty that awareness of kind of what to look for and how to accommodate, again, on a case by case basis based off of what they've seen and what they've kind of observed in the past. Also clarifying roles and responsibilities for faculty and students. So this basically just assists the faculty with being able to decipher what, kind of where their boundaries are versus where the students' boundaries are, which again, I think is all very well and good, for now at least. So moving on to a literature review summary, I started with the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. Basically, this act prohibits any type of like discrimination or anything on the basis of the disability. Programs that are run by federal agencies. So, since a lot of institutions of higher education are run by, federal financial assistance, as well as other either donations or sponsorships, scholarships, things of that nature. But because Carthage does currently receive federal financial assistance, this act basically prohibits them from discriminating, um, uh, based on that disability. So I felt that that was a good place to start with, just to kind of see like what the foundation is and how Carthage has kind of, molded their programming, or how they've structured things to make sure that they don't fall, within that discrimination. Ensuring that services provided are effective. A lot of the research that I was doing while trying to compile all of this, for my presentation, basically kept saying the same thing, that you want to make sure that yes, you are providing these services because you have to and because you want to make sure that you don't discriminate against that group of people. However, are these services actually working? Do you have evidence to serve that the students are actually benefiting from these services that you're providing? And that is definitely something that, again, I feel that we want to not only look at but promote. If things are effective, then that's great, but it's also great to let people know, so then that way they have a little bit more confidence in the things that you guys are providing for them and the opportunities that you have for them, because again, you have that evidence to back it up. Again, making sure that their experience is comparable to peers. So, making sure that there's that balance. You want to make sure that the students feel comfortable and they don't feel, again, set apart from their peers. It needs to be just one environment, one educational experience, not necessarily based off of how they're learning, but is everyone learning the same thing, essentially. Increasing awareness of resources available on and off campus. So with this, basically you want to make sure that the resources that you have on campus, like the things that are currently set up at Carthage, but things that may also be set up in the community, you want to make sure that these students are aware of what's around them. If they, for some reason, need additional supports that Carthage may not offer, it is at that point that, a representative should state, well, here are some other options for you. Like that should be readily available to them. They shouldn't have to necessarily search for that on their own. If they do, that's great, but we should also want to be able to hand them a few things as well that, might work for them. And then if for any reason those don't, then of course they can search for other things. But again, we want to have at least those initial options for them already. So then that way we can provide them that information and kind of guide them on where to go from there. Helping these students to stay engaged encourages their transition into life at the college. Definitely a big promoter of making sure that the students are engaged in what the campus has to offer. So, be it events, be it organizations, be it just simple networking with their peers. You want to make sure that you're offering that support to these students, not necessarily hand holding. You don't necessarily want to have to, quote unquote, baby them while they're at Carthage. We're supposed to be adults. We're supposed to be learning how to be independent and kind of finding our own way. But at the same time, if in the event that the students don't necessarily know what path to take, or they don't know, again, what's out there, what may be available for them, they may feel like, with their particular disability that they don't have as many options as the next person. And we just want to make sure that we're there to offer additional options, give them something to look forward to, give them a goal if they can't come up with one on their own, and then kind of assist them along the way. But again, making sure that they're doing, their fair share of the work, making sure that they're also able to support themselves and not just depending on the school, to just fully support them. Getzel states that the student needs to be vocal. So again, just kind of going off of what I was saying before, the student does need to have some type of voice in all of this. They need to make sure that they are, properly prepared to take on these things. They need to kind of have an idea of what disability they have and kind of where their strengths and weaknesses lie. And hopefully, either pairing up again with a peer, a faculty advisor, or what have you, they'll be able to create some type of plan to, strengthen the strengths and hopefully strengthen some of those weaknesses as well. You want to implement some structure and then evaluate the effectiveness. So the plan that Carthage is now coming up with the students, you want to make sure that what has been set up for them is actually working. And then continuously, reevaluate, make sure that what was effective before is still currently effective. I mean, there may be changes over the years or even by semester where, where one thing worked, it might not work in another, course or, in another environment. So you just want to make sure that you're following up with the student to make sure that they're not just kind of getting lost in the trenches. And then again, more observations of learning disabilities present. Learning disabilities are way more prevalent than they probably have been in previous years. And it's quick to just kind of put a diagnosis on a person and state that they have this problem or this deficiency and then just kind of ship them off. However, what we would want to do as educators is to make sure that disability doesn't become all that they are. That may be a piece of them, but that does not make them, them. So if they do happen to have, difficulties in whatever area, we just want to make sure that we offer the right amount of supports and the right amount of effective supports at that, in order to assist them in getting their education, because that's the end goal. So the graph that I have here basically is just showing, and I just kind of highlighted for the private sector since Carthage is a private school, the different types of disabilities are at the top, and these are the amount of institutions who are actually enrolling students in each of these categories. So this graph is from 2008-2009 academic year, so a little dated, but as you can see, there are a large number of institutions that are actually enrolling students in, a lot of different disability categories. And although, this isn't to say that, you guys need to increase your enrollment and, in all areas and try to seek out more students that have disabilities, not necessarily saying that, but just to kind of show, how prevalent it is today. Well, as far as in 2008, 2009, you can only imagine the numbers, for the actual like 14, 15 or 15, 16 school year. I'm sure that they've increased. So this graph again is just showing the same like institutions, again highlighted the private area, but the same institutions that are enrolling these students with disabilities and the various accommodations that they offer to the students. So some of them listed were like alternative exam formats, tutors to assist with ongoing coursework, course substitutions, large print or braille materials, help with learning strategies or study skills. And a lot of these Carthage already offer, so that's awesome. Disability benefits counseling, counseling about vocational rehabilitation services, moving classes to a more accessible location. So these are all some of the tactics that currently institutions are utilizing. And again, I know Carthage is already kind of on the ball with a lot of these, but just to kind of put it in perspective, these are the things that institutions are doing in order to help support these types of students. So obviously these have proven to be effective in the past, and I'm sure will continue to be effective in the future. So the goals for my project are to basically I want to provide suggestions that hopefully will help to market the current student services. So I feel as though there should be a little bit more promotion as far as what Carthage has to offer, how Carthage is kind of battling the incoming students, and I don't mean to say battle, but when the incoming students come with these, documentations and stating that they need these accommodations and things like that, how Carthage is already being proactive in that. I would also like to identify, any improvements, if there are any, on the current programming. I think, again, that the way that Carthage currently has things set up is very effective. And I think that for the small group that they're currently, retaining that may have special needs or may be classified as having a developmental disability, I think that what they're doing is good. But again, we just want to push the fact that you all are prepared for these types of students. And it's nothing new, to you all to be able to, provide support services and, class accommodations and things like that. Implementing any additional programs. I definitely think that there could be more if Carthage is interested to, again, just kind of give the student population more to experience and an easier way to transition into life at Carthage. And then increasing advocacy for the student population to speak up regarding their needs. So if in the event that students may feel that something isn't effective, or if they feel that, that they need more or they would want more support-wise or just in general, the students need to be comfortable enough to say that. I don't necessarily know if right now students feel as though they could come to their advisor or they could come to their professor and just state, I need more, or I want more, or where can I get more? Those are just some things that they should be able to do. And we want to encourage them to do so. So then that way, you all are aware and you can make adjustments as needed. And then again, last but not least, you want to provide evidence of the successes in the current programming structure. So, have some people come out and state that they've been, utilizing the support services and they've been great. Have, maybe like a panel or just get some feedback from some of the current students and just ask, is there anything else that we could have done for you that would have helped? And then just see what they say. I mean, they may say nothing, and then that's awesome. But they may also state that, maybe they felt a little secluded, or maybe they, wanted a more one-on-one basis with their advisor, or, anything. And I think that Carthage deserves to know that. And then again, once you get that information, you can adjust accordingly. And then once you kind of have, things successful and kind of get the ball rolling with any changes that you make, then, provide that evidence and state that these are the changes that we've made. They've proven to be successful. But again, we're always looking to do more if we have to, if we need to, for you guys. Because again, the students are, who we're here for, who we want to support, and who we want to help succeed. So what will be affected? Ultimately, it's going to be the institutional environment. There would be some potential changes, at the institution. And then with the student support services, that will obviously be affected because we want to be, again, more proactive in developing plans and programs and things like that in order to support these students better. How will they be affected? The support services will be restructured essentially. And not to say that they need to be totally revamped, but there may be some slight additions. And then further outreach. So, again, marketing to potential students, or even just kind of getting an idea of what the community is wanting, if these types of students are surrounding Carthage, then, making sure that they know that Carthage is available for them, if they meet all of the other criteria, as well as stating that, we're available for you as well. And who will ultimately be affected? The students, obviously. The students that would actually participate, as well as the other students, because I think that would encourage them to be more aware of, the people that are walking up and down Campus Drive with them every day. I think that sometimes we get so caught up in just what we have going on that we forget about the next person. And I think just, again, bringing more awareness to the campus and bringing more awareness to the students will kind of open the floodgates with that, and give everybody a chance to kind of speak up and, help in whatever way that they can. So some of the strategies and initiatives that I'm proposing, implementing additional student support services. So assigned advisors throughout the degree program. So I definitely think that it's helpful to have just a one-on-one advisor. And obviously the advisors may not necessarily be able to, just have one person throughout their entire, tenure at Carthage. But maybe if one advisor had, maybe 5 or 6 students, but they only saw this particular advisor their 4 years at Carthage. So then that way there's consistency. There is, they're able to build that rapport and build a really good and solid relationship, and it'll be a trusting relationship too, where they can feel comfortable expressing how they feel, comfortable expressing whether they need more or they don't feel like they're getting enough, or they're not, they're not transitioning well, like things like that. You want to create that comfortable space for them, so then that way, again, if they are feeling inadequate or they are feeling that they can't move forward, or if they are having problems with classes or with peers, they can come to that advisor, and then hopefully the advisor can guide them in the right direction. I also would implement maybe some peer mentors or quote unquote buddies just for interaction. So, maybe have someone come around and, helping with homework, or, maybe like a upperclassman with a freshman, or upperclassman with a sophomore, just to give them a different perspective, so that they know kind of what's awaiting them when they get into their higher grades. And then community support. Give them that opportunity to get out in the community and do some real life, real world things. I think that it's very imperative to give them the opportunity to kind of experience some things that are outside of the campus, so then that way they're aware of, what to expect when they graduate. Because again, they may be so caught up in just, oh, I'm going to school and I'm going to pass my classes and I'm going to graduate, but then what's next? And I feel like if they're out in the community and they're, forming other relationships and, kind of experiencing some more things, that'll open their eyes to other opportunities that they may not have been originally aware of. Another strategy would be to reach out to current students on better tactics, like what would help them now. So if in the event that you do have some students that are on campus that are, wanting just a little bit more, either academically or socially, you want to ask that question and just see, what else will we be able to provide for you that would make your experience more enjoyable, or, make it more successful for you. Assess the needs for incoming students prior to enrollment. So before you officially have a student that is, enrolled and ready to sign up for classes and register and everything, make sure that the needs that they're requiring, that you're able to provide. You don't necessarily want to, enroll a student that may have some special needs, and then we don't have the tools or the accessibility to get to the tools that they need, and then we're not, providing the proper resources for this particular student, and that could in turn, cause them to not move forward into the next academic year, or, if they are struggling, while they're in school, we need to again make sure that we do all that we can in order to get them where they need to be. And again, it shouldn't always just fall on the institution, but we should at least attempt to do what we can. And then at that point, we're not able to help, then, we can look into other options. Assess the willingness from faculty to participate. So we definitely want to make sure the faculty are going to be on board. We want them to buy into the concept that we want to better support these students and offer additional services if needed, so that these students, again, have, a very good and quality educational experience. So just talking with some faculty and seeing, if they feel as though that there could be more offered at Carthage, or if they would be willing to devote a little bit more time or be assigned solely to, a few students that may, have these developmental disabilities, and would they be able to commit to that group and really commit to assisting them in their 4 years at the school. Um, Establish a set structure to follow. So a set program every year. So there should be, or I'm proposing that there should be, maybe like an orientation or just something brief in the beginning of the school year that kind of introduces all of the students to Carthage and to, again, the different support services that we have at Carthage. This would, again, give them the information right in the door and give us the opportunity to kind of get to know these students and see exactly what we may need to do for them throughout the rest of the year. This also gives them an opportunity to mingle, get to know a few people right in the beginning of the school year, so then that way they don't necessarily feel like, they don't know anybody, or, they may be a little hesitant to, try to network or socialize or anything like that, but this gives them that opportunity. And once we have that kind of program set up, then we can continue that every year. And then that will hopefully bridge that gap between, the students just coming in and kind of just being bum rushed into the the Carthage experience, which is great. Don't get me wrong, but they may just not necessarily be ready for right away. We may just have to transition them a little bit more slowly into it than just hitting it head on. And then finally, more marketing. So we want to participate during the informational fairs, making sure again that we market these services, and notify the community and potential students of what we have to offer, so then that way they're aware prior to enrolling. And then maybe also including some information in like the welcome packets or the interest packets. So again, students are aware, they have that evidence, they have that backup, prior to applying and enrolling and then possibly not coming back. So the projected outcomes of these strategies, students will be more involved in the decision-making process. So once we're getting that feedback from the students and we're, making the necessary adjustments based off of the students' feedback, they'll be more involved in their own experience. So we'll be able to implement accommodations based off of what they're stating that they would want or need. We're able to assist with future initiatives. So if proven to be successful, maybe we can implement other things. So then that way, again, we're, constantly changing based off of the needs of the students. And then also giving them further accountability and being, in control of their education. If we're going to want to promote, for them to be adults and promoting them to be more independent and kind of, take the reins with this, then I think that the strategies and getting that feedback and kind of asking those questions to get, them to be more vocal will do just that. We also would like, or a projected outcome should be, more outreach from the assigned and devoted faculty. So getting the faculty to be more engaged with the students will allow, again, better relationships, but also getting them to, stay more encouraged, stay more, I guess, engaged in like organizations, in their courses, in the social networking aspect, but just making sure that we have that outreach happening, so then that way we don't just kind of lose them in the trenches. Further promotion of the available resources. So the more they know, the better. So basically just, again, pushing all of the different types of services that we offer, and making sure that they're aware of them. If they would like to take, to participate in them, great. If not, at least we gave them the information and then they can make the decision at that point whether to participate or not. And then last but not least, another goal would be to increase campus and potential student exposure. So we definitely want to get the campus more involved, and more, again, aware of what we have to offer and what opportunities there are. And then also get the students more exposed to these things as well, because it does help for the faculty and the students who are actually going to be benefiting from these programs and the structure to be on one page, but it also helps for the other students to be on the same page with all of us. Just so then that way, again, they know kind of what's going on around them. And if, they're able to offer any additional information or support or anything like that, like you have the backup of the campus versus just, a small group or just the ADAPT organization or what have you. How to assess the project. Again, getting current student feedback. We want to review retention rates following the initiative implementation. So once you begin to implement some of the strategies that I mentioned previously, you want to just kind of review whether it's making a difference in the retention rates. Do you see that more students are, graduating or at least staying year to year based off of these implementations? If not, obviously, then, we would need to revamp and see, what may not be effective and what we may need to change. But again, you want to just make sure that you're following the retention and seeing if any enrollment data has increased or decreased or maintained based off of these changes. You also want to review participation in the program offerings. So if you do, attempt to utilize this orientation process or utilize the one-to-one advisor and things like that, see how effective it is, if the students even want to participate in it, or are they just, kind of set in how things originally were and they don't want to make the changes. Also want to look into that. And then get feedback from community members. I think that kind of gauging the interest level and the needs for potential students would be very effective. Also seeing like what types of programs that they would like to have offered if Carthage doesn't already have those, and seeing if, we can work as far as with the financial resources and human resources, if that was something that we could also implement, maybe not necessarily in the current year, but in years to come, and just kind of what is the community looking for overall. So if these students are supposed to be coming to Carthage and they meet all of the other necessary requirements, what else could Carthage offer them? So then that way they would again be able to get that optimal educational experience. So a projected timeline would obviously to get research. So in the winter of 2016, you would want to just kind of get some feedback from the previous year. And then in the spring of 2016, you also want to get some feedback on the current structure. So the current services and different types of support that you all have on campus, kind of speak to the students that are currently utilizing, those supports, and just get some information as to whether they're effective or whether, they feel that they would want more. Then comes the trial period. So in the beginning of the fall 2016, you want to initiate a small group for testing. So maybe with that fall 16 class, let's say, that comes in, the students that may need to, get further resources due to, whatever special needs that they may have, maybe start them with that orientation process. It could be 2 people, it could be 20 people, but just initiate it with just them first and see if, if they kind of take to it or if they're, not necessarily interested in it. And then if all goes well with that fall 2016 small group, then you want to do a full trial of the program initiative. So that's including the orientation, that's with the assigned advisors, that's with the peer buddies, that's with the outreach from the faculty to the students, that's with community exposure. All of those different initiatives will happen with this small group for the entire academic year. So that's from 2016 to 2017. And then for review, in the summer of 2017, you'll just basically have a full review of what happened with the trial group, if it proved to be effective, and then if so, you would have that review to see what you will implement for the students in the coming fall, which comes to the implementation stage. So for fall 2017, you'll implement all the program initiatives for students with special needs versus just, a select few like you had in the beginning of fall 2016. Some budgetary items to think of, obviously human resources. You want to assess the interest from the current faculty. So you want to see who will commit to even, buying into these strategies and, these additions basically to the structure that you all already have. And then assigning faculty to only this population. Again, I'm a big proponent of building those relationships and keeping them consistent. I know when I was at Carthage, I had a different advisor every year, just depending. I had a freshman advisor, and I had like an advisor for my actual major. Then I had another advisor that I actually went to for, like registration issues or just like personal issues and things like that. So I had at least 3 or 4 people that I was talking to on a given, day-to-day basis. But I think that if I would have just had one set advisor to follow me the 4 years that I was there, not to say that that would necessarily make any like drastic changes, but it would at least have, again, given me that confidence that I can come to them with whatever and they're equipped to handle it all. And not to say that all faculty, even want to do that, but again, gaining that interest from them and then seeing where you can place them and then having them actually commit to that, I think would be very beneficial. And then from a financial standpoint, want to just increase the funding to offset some of the learning modifications. So if you're not already doing this, then I would think that for additional materials for each individual, there should already be braille books, accessible in certain areas. And we also want to make sure that we have the resources to obtain, any type of books for braille, for the students if they need them. If whether it be a website or a vendor or whomever, but we want to make sure that we have that resource so then that way, if that situation does arrive, we're already prepared for it. Also, the same with the voice dictation software. If in the event a student is in need of such accommodations, we want to make sure that we already either have it in-house or at least know where we can get it. I also am proposing maybe some additional scholarships to assist in enrollment. I know that from a personal standpoint, with a lot of families that have students that have developmental disabilities or just simply like a learning disability or anything like that, there are some limitations sometimes on, the funding that they can kind of shell out for their students' education. And you don't necessarily want that funding to be, the sole reason that they can't attend. So I think that maybe some scholarships or something to kind of give them that extra push, stating, that we want you. If you think that you can succeed here at Carthage and you're able to, hold your own academically, we'll give you the support and we'll give you, whatever other services that you may need and other accommodations. But we also want you to know that, we want you. So we'd be able to award you this scholarship, again, to encourage you to, attend and get your degree and, further your education and really just, give them that opportunity that again, they may not necessarily know that they have. Shiro Geist, 2009, stated that it may in fact generate an appreciation for the institution and faculty for expressing interest in making sure their needs were met. And again, that's essentially what my project is based on. I think that Carthage should want to express interest in making sure that their students are fully accommodated on all levels. And that just goes for, all students, but especially the students that have these disabilities, because again, that disability to them may be something that holds them back from gaining that education. But Carthage wants to be an institution that promotes getting the education despite the disability. I know a student that actually attended Carthage with me by the name of Patrice Russell. She gave me this quote and just stated that I just wanted to know that they believed in me like I believed in me. And she graduated in 2007, and I just remember the beam on her face when she finally crossed that stage, because she was one of the students that participated in getting, additional accommodations at the school and getting additional supports at the school. And she felt that, for her situation, that Carthage was very effective. They were very helpful in everything that they did. And it always just made me think, if Patrice is successful, I know that there are other students that have been and will be successful. I just really want Carthage to push that. And I really want, Carthage to be that institution that is able to state, yes, we, will do whatever it takes in order to help you to succeed. And I believe in my heart that Carthage is that type of institution. So again, we just want to make it more evident. So in conclusion, with the, small restructuring of, the programming, kind of implementing a few other things as far as, like I said, the assigned advisors and, the orientation process and things like that. I definitely think that Carthage can be and will be a more marketable institution to this type of demographic. Not necessarily stating that, again, you need more of these students necessarily, because I know that, again, they have to be able to meet the other criteria that Carthage requires in order to attend. But again, you just don't want to necessarily leave that group out just based off of the fact that they don't know what Carthage has. So, are there any questions? I hope you've enjoyed my presentation. I apologize for the length, but I do appreciate your time and you just kind of listening to me and seeing what I'm proposing. If you could, I appreciate all feedback, good or bad, and just either shoot me an email or you can give me a call and just let me know what you think. My email address is kalinabird@gmail.com. That's CALINA, B as in boy, YRD as in dog, @gmail.com. And my number is in the email that I sent to you all. So I hope you've had a good evening, and I'll hopefully be speaking with you soon. Thanks.